a new folder. So as you can see here, my folder, I've called this eBlock split box. And then within that, I would like you to create a new document called split box or something similar to that. So I'm going to open mine now. And as you will see, it's just an empty file because I've not yet drawn anything. So what I would like you to do first of all, please, is to draw a rectangle on the top plane that is 160 by 70. So I'll demonstrate that. Sketch, rectangle, let's normalize it to the plane, let's draw our rectangle, and then let's add our dimensions and change to be 160 tall by 70 in width, but we want it to be in the center. So we measure from one side to our center point and halve the measurement again, so it's in the center. As you can see, it's not, yet it looked like it was. Now we know that's in the center. So we've got our starting point here. I'm going to accept, spin round in 3D, so you can see that we've just drawn a rectangle. Now what we want to do is we're going to create a surface to extrude to. So this is the new skills. So by doing that, we're going to add a sketch onto our right plane here. Okay, so as we look at it, normalized, we can see our original sketch here, where the two dots represent the endpoints. What I want you to do is use the spline tool to draw a line which is basically going to be straight-ish, slightly curved here, but then go slightly bigger at this end, and an ever so slightly curved line on this side. But one thing we want to do is try and get an idea of where the height of that line is. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our line to a construction line. And I'm going to just start off by creating a couple of guidelines for me in my surface. So I'm just going to draw one, like so, and press escape. And then, making sure I do the same again, construction line, straight line, just going to draw one underneath. Doesn't matter how long they are. What does matter though is the dimension between the middle and here, because this is going to give us our height. Okay, so how thick ultimately we want it. Now everything that we're doing at the moment, we've got to think we want this to be half of the total thickness. So ideally we're looking at about 50 millimeters for this product. So if I do approximately 25 on this side, and if I repeat that for the one underneath, remember these are just our guidelines. We don't have to snap to these lines, we can go out of them. So now we've got our construction lines. We're going to use the spline tool. Now remember that this here is the start point and this here is the end point. I'm going to do my sketch here now, my curve sketch, and what I'm going to do on the top and bottom, I want the sketch to be outside, in other words, in this area and this area, outside of these points. So the surface is bigger than the line, okay? So I'm going to start off with the bottom one actually in this case. So the bottom one is going to be quite subtle. So I'm going to sketch here, okay? I'm going to go beyond the halfway point, so it's in kind of like the second half of the product. And then I'm going to ever so slightly curve my line like this. Okay, so you can see, hopefully now, okay, we go slightly up, then curve down. Now, if you want to change your line, you can, after you've drawn it, you can click on any of the points and bend if you want a more subtle or smoother curve. At the moment, I'm pretty happy with what I see there. Okay, it curves up ever so slightly at the end. As long as you don't do anything too dramatic, it will all be good. I'm then going to repeat that again, but this time I'm going to do the top surface. But the top, I'm going to do slightly differently in that for the top, I just want perhaps even more subtle. So I'm going to just bend it ever so slightly here, come down ever so slightly, come back up ever so slightly, and pretty much finish on my line over here. And then press escape, So I've got my shape, press escape again, and I'm just going to try and bend my line a little bit more. Now, if you find that it's snapping to lines and you don't want it to, then zoom in a little bit more, which gives you that little bit more flexibility. So that's what I want. Let's accept, spin round. So you can see that what I've got is just a sketch here, and my original rectangle. So what I want to do now is extrude a surface. So I'm going to go to the Extrude tool, but this time in the Extrude tool, it normally always defaults to solid. This time we're going to pick surface. What I'm going to do is pick the top of my sketch here. So that line, I pick it. And as you can see, it adds a surface. A surface has no thickness at all. Okay, so it's the thickness of a line, which in this case can be a fraction of a millimetre, so we treat it as no surface. So a surface is good, but we want the surface on both sides of our plane. So we change blind to symmetrical. Okay, now the important thing now is that your surface is wider than your original rectangle. So we can just drag it to be bigger. Now, we know that the rectangle is actually 70, so technically we could do 72, because then we would know that it's bigger, okay? But it's totally up to you what you do. Okay, so as you can see here, I've just changed mine to 80. I'm going to accept that. And one thing to note is just here in the model tree, now it tells me I have a surface. I have a surface which I can show or hide at any point. My sketch has disappeared. So let's turn my sketch back on and let's repeat that process, press surface for the bottom line. Symmetrical, let's keep it the same, let's keep it at 80 and let's accept. Okay, so there we have our two different surfaces and now you can see surface 1, surface 2. I could at this point rename them and say top surface and bottom surface. And of course, this is important when you're trying to find things. Okay? And again, here we have them as extrusions. So if I wanted to, again, I can name them here. Now you might think that this is just a bit of extra work, a bit of a not needed. It is good technique, is good modelling strategy to do this. Okay, so top surface, because it just helps us find things in the end. Again, I could even name the sketches, which would help. Something like that. Okay, so I can find things. So what we want to do now is extrude to a surface. So, and I'm going to treat them, instead of trying to do both at the same time, I'm going to treat them separately. So what we're going to do is extrude to a surface. So let's do that. So we're going to go extrude, and instead of picking it, we could pick it this way. Of course, we can pick it this way. Okay, so as you can see, that now wants to extrude upwards in the air. Okay, so what I want to do is change blind to up to next. And up to next finds the next surface that it can find. And you can see now, you get these funny lines across it. It's extruding to a curved surface or a mapped surface. Now something else that we can do, I'm going to show you in a minute, which is we can ever so slightly draft angle. We'll add that in the next video. But for the moment, we're going to accept, and then we're going to repeat the process again, sketch, and this time, of course, we want to go down, and we want to choose up to next. So now, we've got the bottom surface. Now the important thing here right now is that it says add, because we don't want two separate blocks, we just want one. So add the material to the original material. So let's accept, and there you go, you can see what we have, and at any point we can just hide those two surfaces. Okay, so you can see that now we've got a block that's slightly curved, different shapes. In video 2, we're going to modify this ever so slightly.